There we go. Webinar in. It's my favorite part of it. You get to start seeing all the attendee lists just start filing in right now.
Okay.
So fantastic. Well, welcome everyone. We got a lot of folks joining, a lot of familiar faces and names I already see jumping in. So we'll let everybody get in, get situated, grab a water, grab a beer, whatever time of the day it is for you. No judgment here. So we'll get everything kicked off in just a second. So.
Yeah. I was wondering about grabbing a beer for this, but no, let's.
I'm still on the hydration train. I would be lying to you if I didn't say the city of Atlanta has been celebrating a little bit over the last 2 or 3 days. So, that's what happens when you go 26 years without a championship and you finally win something. So we're all still riding that high right now in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So,
congrats, you guys deserve it.
Thank you. I say that I'm going to look at the attendee list and I can tell you anybody that lives in the greater Houston area is probably going to start dropping off right now from that comment, but that's all right. So, well, good stuff, man. We got a lot to talk about and very little amount of time to do it. So we'll get things kicked off. JB, better known as Jerry Bonura, pumped to have you here, man. For everybody that's just joining, if it's your first time, welcome to shOPS Talk. Happy to have you here. Please join more and more of these as we keep having them. And definitely check out our YouTube channel where we got all of our recordings on. But first and foremost, we always like to thank our sponsors for helping us put this on. Jen Whalen, the entire team over at Salesforce, thank you so much for continuing to support this episode and continue to support elevating the RevOps world. We wouldn't be able to do this now going on year 2. Without their support and continued excitement for what we're doing. So we always like to thank the folks that are behind the scenes helping do this, especially Sarah in our room as well, who's right off camera, who puts all the hard work in to put all this together. So thank you for everybody for helping us out and get this moving. That being said, JB, I'm going to turn the mic over to you, let you introduce yourself. Excited to have you here, though. But tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Brad. And thank you to the sponsors. Agreed, Jen at Salesforce is awesome. Talked to her a couple of times. I'm Jerry. I'm with 20 Pine. We are a talent firm focused exclusively on the RevOps ecosystem. So helping companies hire anything from a sales ops analyst to VP of RevOps. Also do a lot of like Salesforce, systems roles as well, because, typically fall under RevOps. I've been doing this for a long time. Love it. Love the space. Let's live and breathe this stuff. So pumped to talk.
I love it. And looking through even some of the attendee lists, I know we got a lot of familiar faces in here. Kevin, who's been on shOPS Talk with us before, glad to see you in, man. Hope all is well. Jared, we know what time of the year this is, other than just coming off the World Series, which I know we'll talk about probably 100 more times in the next 20 minutes. But we are in fiscal year planning for next year. One of the biggest things that is on everybody's plate right now and everybody's mind is hiring, building out your RevOps team. Even if you're on this, not necessarily in a management position or a leadership position, you might also be looking at your next adventure in the RevOps space. So big topic today when it comes to how to find and hire RevOps badasses. You have a very special and fun job because you get to identify those folks for your customers, talk to them every day, and place a lot of badass RevOps folks in those seats. So very specific reason, which is why we had you here. So we're excited to jump right into it, especially for those, again, this October, November, December timeframe, as we're all planning for next fiscal and calendar year. No better time to talk about hiring for RevOps. First thing we'll do, though, we always like to have our folks on the call participate. We've got a lot of folks here, by the way. I love it. Please be interactive. If you have a question for us, don't hesitate. Jump in the chat, jump in the question and ask it. But we actually have a first question for you. Are you a Rockstar RevOps job candidate? So jump into the poll real quick. We always like to get a feel for our audience, how relevant this topic is. But my guess is we're going to get quite a few yeses, maybe a few nos, but also quite a few maybes. I'll throw this out there. This is an anonymous poll. We don't get to share it. So if you're thinking, do I want to yes? Am I looking for a RevOps job? Looks like we got it done. Oh, a good mix of this. 61% yes, 7% no, 32% are in that maybe period. So I love it. And we have some folks in the chat. Vinny, I know you're always looking to hire a Rockstar, so love it. First things first, let's kick this stuff off. We've got a lot to cover. We got a lot of questions. Again, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, but we'll get rolling. Start big, and we're going to drill into this, but maybe why are we seeing the RevOps market just absolutely on fire and booming right now?
Yeah, so a few reasons I would say. I mean, number one, I think because of the COVID hiring pause last year, where pretty much everyone was on a hiring freeze, this year it's just been back full force, better than ever. It's kind of insane, actually. I've personally, I've been doing this since 2016. I've never seen the demand like this before. A couple other reasons that I think. Number one, I think, we're all seeing a ton of investment in the space. I think VCs are talking about it a lot more. I've over the years spoke to a bunch of them who've mentioned how important sales ops and RevOps is, for their portfolio companies. And I think they're passing the importance down to, leadership at their portfolio companies. And honestly, just like a pure supply and demand of talent. There's just way more demand for talent than there is supply right now. Again, why that is could be for a few reasons. There's definitely the buzzword effect. RevOps, sexy buzzword. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone wants it. But lastly, my final thing that makes me so happy is that a lot of people who were a team of one are finally getting their hires this year. I've heard from over the years, so many people who are a team of one and had a million things on their plate. They're finally getting their hires, and makes me super happy. So I'm glad that's happening. I think that's part of why. So,
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Hey, look, nothing like some technical difficulties as we go about our day in shOPS Talk, right? It would only be normal that we have that. So, apologies to everyone for that. You just kept running with it though, so we're totally fine.
Good. Hey, sure. I could run with this for hours. But anyway.
Well, good stuff, man. Keep you posted. I know we're talking about why it's booming, and you just kept running with it. So I heard all of it, and for everybody that was slacking us or jumping in the chat, thank you for letting us know that we were bumping out a little bit. I agree with every one of your pieces of it as far as what we're seeing this boom for. The biggest thing I think is I think to your point, there's so much influx of capital now into this. We see this from a VC-backed company ourselves, where we have a lot of high demand to go and deploy capital. That's one thing. I think you said it best though on the COVID side of things. A lot of folks paused for a little bit. Couldn't agree with you more, but I'll give this other one thing, and I think this is not necessarily in the last 18 months, but more of a function of the last 4, 5, 6 years. The role and the capacity in which the role is being used has shifted dramatically. The amount of responsibilities RevOps folks are now doing, not only managing a tech stack, but managing reporting and analytics and enablement. It's not a one-person job anymore. Even for the small companies, but especially for the big companies of 500, 600, 700 people, usually had 1 or 2 people doing it. We see even a lot of our customers now have RevOps teams of 15, 20, 25 as they continue to grow and scale. So just the sheer demand of what we're looking for is a big piece of it too. So I'm going to jump into that second question. Again, apologies for everyone, or to everyone, for a little bit of technical difficulties, but hey, we roll with them. In your opinion, what is the biggest differentiator for, I'm going to call it a good to great RevOps candidate? Because you talk to a lot of folks, no doubt. That's literally your job every day, is talk to RevOps rockstars, kind of like me. What is your biggest common denominator for a differentiation point of just a total RevOps rockstar?
Yeah, so I would say it's being proactive, proactive versus reactive. I mean, there's some great people who execute on whatever you tell them needs to be done. But I'd say the true rock stars, ballers, killers out there are the people who are more proactive, who, they're not told, but, they notice, hey, I've noticed this could be way better, way faster, way more efficient. And they take that initiative and build or fix or whatever they do to make it better. I would say also the kind of going off that like analytical and strategic skills, where it's more than just like building the reports and the forecasting, the pipeline and all that, but analyzing, identifying trends, and recommending actions, solutions, and changes because of that. And also, as far as like the real rock stars, it's the true RevOps. Now, listen, back in my day, they used to just be called sales ops. You know, remember when we were kids, it was just sales ops, and then sales and marketing ops, and now RevOps. And listen, RevOps still sometimes, like the title, sometimes the person is still only focused on sales ops. And sometimes they're only a Salesforce admin too, but that's a whole nother conversation. Don't get me started. But like true RevOps, like actually sales, marketing, customer success, that's like the true baller stuff. And honestly, like customer success ops, I can't stress that enough. Been hearing it, like, I feel like a couple months ago, out of nowhere, just everyone's coming to us for that. And like, it's like whether they need a RevOps leader who is really skilled with CS ops, or a RevOps leader is hiring someone to just purely focus on CS ops. That's been booming. Like, haven't seen that before.
It's wild. One of the best lines. I'll give two very quick quotes. Terminus, where I came from prior to starting Sonar, our CEO Tim Kopp had a great line, and it's called "Retention is the new acquisition." And yes, new business is always important. We always have to focus on these new logos and new dollars coming in the door, but retention is the new acquisition. And who owns and holds a lot of the retention side of things? Customer success ops. And so again, you start to see that piece of it. The other cool one, I was actually on a call with Justin Michael. I know a lot of folks here know Justin in the RevOps space and greater sales leadership space. He asked me the same thing. He's like, Brad, what is RevOps? It's like, I'm going to start with the inverse. I'm going to tell you what RevOps isn't. RevOps isn't your Salesforce admin. RevOps isn't your help desk. RevOps isn't your troubleshooter just when you think that you're running into a validation rule and you decide not to read the actual validation rule error. He like pushed me off this ledge for a little bit, but it's so true, because I think some people get that misinterpretation of it, like, oh, this is just sales ops on steroids, or oh, this is just a Salesforce admin. Not at all. But I thought it was really funny. I was like, no, we're going to go the inverse of just telling you what it's not. That being said, we talked a little bit about the differentiation of a good candidate versus a great candidate. You help your customers find folks across all levels, whether it be the leader side or the IC side. What differentiates, or what's the difference between a RevOps IC and a RevOps leader? Kind of a loaded question, but I want to get your thoughts on it, because you help find both.
Yeah, so definitely, like, I'd say the proactive, reactive piece, like an order taker versus, like a strategic thought leader. I'd say when it comes to leadership, the stakeholder management communication piece gets a lot more crucial, especially like being able to say no to the CRO, or being able to tell the C-suite, like, actually the data says this, not what you're saying. We shouldn't just go with our gut. This is what the data says, right? That's a lot of things we see in leaders. Also, like, I'd say kind of the been there before, been there, done that, like people who have seen, one or multiple companies double, triple, 10x in size. As you know, when you double the size of the sales team, if you don't do it with, ops in place, a lot of shit's going to break and go wrong. Not always, but usually does. So kind of seeing that, being able to see around the corner, see into the future. And also I'd say kind of knowing how to build for what the company's going to be, not just what it is now. Those are a lot of the things we see more in leaders.
Absolutely. I tell folks a lot, because I've been asked that question too, like, what's going to help me elevate? What's going to help me stand out amongst the crowd and differentiate that IC versus leader role? Go find out what questions your leader's asking. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your RevOps leader, but ask what question you get asked the most from your VP of sales, from your CMO, from your CEO, from your CFO. There's a big reason why they're asking that question. If you can figure out how to answer the proactive why, they're going to ask you, what was our conversion rate last quarter from stage 2 to stage 3? You know how to tactically answer that. We all do. We're all RevOps and Salesforce rock stars on here. We're going to go run that report. Why are they asking that? And if you can walk a mile in their shoes and say, you know what, they're asking this because of X or because of Y, or because they want to see if we're performing better in this industry, or maybe this rep is performing better than the other. Proactively give them that answer. Like, hey, yes, our conversion rate increased by 5% from this stage to that stage. It's really because we're performing better in this industry, and these two fully ramped reps are now humming on all cylinders. You want to get that next step up, answer the proactive why. We do, we'll take a quick break. I want to provide one asset for everybody, because one question, Jerry, I'm sure you get all the time is, what's the average salary of a RevOps role? Stop me if you've heard that one, right? We've actually we've actually done a lot of the heavy lifting for this, and Sarah can put this in the chat now. We have an ebook on this, and we did an entire survey for it as far as average salaries for RevOps leaders and IC roles. So we'll drop that in there now. We also have a couple of questions real quick. So I'm going to jump to Nico right now. You know, as a young professional, you know, should we be looking to join an established RevOps team or a company looking to start a new one? I'll pass it over to you, JB, and then I'll answer as well.
Oh man, this is a conversation I have with a lot of people who are earlier in their careers. Because when you are like that first hire at a company, like you learn a lot of stuff on the job. You wear so many more hats. But like a lot of people, and listen, I know some really baller RevOps people who never reported to a more senior RevOps person. They kind of just learned everything on the job. And luckily there's, like Wizards of Ops and other communities to like learn from other people. But, there's definitely pros and cons to it. Like you being the person who owns everything and, jack of all trades versus like, if you get to work under someone who's like really experienced and learn from them, learn like, I don't know if I'd say learning properly compared to not properly, but I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to it. I think, when you are part of a team, you're going to be a little more siloed. I don't know if siloed is a word, but you won't be like, running the whole show. But you will get more mentorship and like collaboration. There's a lot of like I had a dinner like 2 years ago with some directors of sales ops in New York, and like every single one of them was a team of one and didn't know anyone else in sales ops. There was 10 people who were like director level, awesome people. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to answer that without knowing the specifics of each situation.
Yeah, it is tough. It's a situational answer. I think a lot of that comes down to the person of what you're looking for and how you're trying to excel. But I think one of those common denominators, you did it with a 10-person dinner. We see it all the time in WizOps. Surround yourself with other folks of like-mindedness and ask them a lot of questions. You can be a team of one and you can still go and accelerate and grow in your career. The one biggest thing that you want to learn from everybody else is, how did you take that team of one to a team of 5? Because that's what I want to do. That's how I've wanted to build my teams. So surround yourself and ask the right questions to the right folks, and it's going to be a lot easier. I'm gonna cruise down to this question, and this one's a fun one, especially for folks that are thinking about getting into the job market or starting to apply for this. What are your best tips to ace any RevOps interviews? What stories should you be talking about in your interviews? What do you think about that when you hear it from your customers who are the hiring managers? What do they want to hear? $1 million question, right?
Yeah. So I would definitely say bring data. Like if you can show and like, run these reports in Salesforce, right? Like when you started versus now, like what was the average deal size, deal cycle, what was productivity per rep? And there's a ton of metrics that you could show. And if you did positively impact them, bring those stories, bring the data, talk about projects you worked on where it was you that identified an issue, or like you like proactively saw something and were able to make it better and what the results were. I mean, I help a lot of people with their resumes, and it'll be like, I built this, or I, implemented this. Like, okay, what were the results? Like what was the, what were the SDR team doing before and then after you did that? And how did that, down funnel, how did that impact everything? So definitely bringing data, and like, if you're in RevOps, you definitely know how to run some good reports in Salesforce, right? So I would absolutely bring those data points.
Yeah, I agree. Make it relevant. Look, that person on the other side of the desk or on the other side of the Zoom, however you're interviewing, is talking to you because they have a problem. Yeah. Listen, do a little active listening, ask them what their problem is. And you don't have to necessarily solve it in that interview. This was years back, but it's how I actually got my RevOps job when I was at Terminus. I remember talking to the CRO and he was describing a specific problem in the interview. I was like, look, I don't have enough time to spin up a new sandbox, like build a workflow rule or process builder to show you how to do it. But I can do that after this interview. And I remember him describing the issue. And I remember spinning up a sandbox or jumping in Trailhead and building something very quickly as far as a process. Here's what you should think about to go solve that problem. Shoot that over to them in an email following up after your interview. Hey, CRO, I know you described this problem. Here's how I think about going to solve it. I mean, you're going to build a lot of credibility, and you're also going to help somebody out with a little bit of free work, sure, but that goes a long way when they're interpreting how you're going to fit into this company and what value you can bring to them. So, speaking of that, I'll jump to this to the next question when we think about it. Hiring processes are tough because we want to vet out candidates in a timely manner and really make sure that we know what to evaluate and why to evaluate. But how do you go about building a good hiring process? And this should be something that both candidates and hiring managers on this call should be listening to, because it's a matter of efficiency while also getting what you need out of that candidate. But how do you think about the right hiring process and keeping it efficient?
Yeah. So, and like efficiency is key today. Like I have a lot of things I can say about this question, but like to tailor it to like the market we're in today, it's really got to be efficient now. And by, I want to say fast, but like, obviously you have to thoroughly vet someone. So efficient is the word I'll use instead. First of all, I think intro call needs to always be with the hiring manager. Have an HR call after that. Like go into a million reasons why, but just it's best practice. I think you need to have things. First of all, there needs to be a lot of communication amongst the hiring team, the stakeholders who are interviewing. They need to be meeting regularly, going over all the pros and cons of every candidate they interview. Have it structured so that like you don't have 3 different interviewers asking the same question and the candidate repeating things. Because keep in mind, like interviewing at a company, that is the candidate's first impression of the company. And if it's like long, arduous, and repetitive, like it's not really, anyway. So there's that. I think like we've talked about having like a take-home project. First of all, don't make it like an 8-hour long one. That's, A, a turn off to candidates, and B, like you guys really gonna go through that. Second of all, the 30, 60, 90-day project is just, it's so generic. Like I have an example that a candidate sent me for a VP sales ops job a few years ago that like I could send to you and it'll work. Like just change the company name. Like they're so generic, 30, 60, 90s. Please make it something relevant to your company and like that requires some actual thought-provoking stuff. Yeah, I mean, I can go on for hours about this. I mean, first of all, right now, like there's just so many, every candidate that you talk to right now is likely interviewing elsewhere or getting hit up by 100 recruiters, us included, about other jobs. So keep that in mind. You got to move fast, like period. You got to move fast, make a decision. Also, last thing, I mean, so many companies like looking for a unicorn, and like I know some companies who've been interviewing for months, interviewed so many great candidates, but like, oh, they don't check off every single box. You're not going to get 20 out of 20 things from a candidate, period, end of story. So you got to prioritize that.
I completely agree, and Kristen actually agrees with you as well. Glad to hear you say that about the 8-hour projects plus 30, 60, 90. Look, I agree. You can Google a 30, 60, 90, at least a template, and most of the things that people are going to answer that are going to be templated. I hate to say that, but like it's fact of the matter with where we are now. I will say I'm a fan of the projects as long as they are efficient. Don't go ask somebody to go and do a data exercise. It's going to take them 8, 10, 15, 20 hours like going through. If you're going to create, this is what we do, especially on all levels of our hiring side. We do have a little bit of a practical, a little bit of an exercise. It should not take you longer than maybe an hour and a half to think through it and put some thoughts to paper. But I'll give you a peek under the sonar covers. When we put people through exercises, honestly, it's not necessarily to see what their answer is. It's to see how they got there and what questions they ask to get there. I think you learn more about a candidate hearing them ask questions to you, because it starts to show how they think. Are they a critical thinker? Sadly, you don't get to go ask that question in an interview. Like, hey, Jerry, are you a critical thinker? What's your answer going to be? Yeah, Brad, I am. Of course I'm a critical thinker. Yeah. Like, you have to exemplify that. You have to actually like show that. And doing some of those exercises, I do think is a good way of finding out how people think and how they ask questions. But again, you have to be efficient with it. I know we're getting close to the top of time. We always want to leave enough time for folks to ask any more questions. I do have one, and then I know we've got two more questions for you, Jerry, but I'm going to scroll back up here. I think there was one, Jackie Glenn actually asked this. What are the key skills that VCs are suggesting to the leadership team that they should be looking for first? I'll take a stab at it while you think of the answer. I hear this often. We're actually going to have some folks from Redpoint Ventures on early next year. We're already coordinating one of the shOPS Talk episodes so that we hear from venture capitalists and from investors themselves. So we're going to have some friends from Redpoint jump on. But I think they are looking for the reason they are pushing so many companies. Go find that RevOps rockstar. Go find that person that can help your company grow. It's because we have an influx of data. So you have to have somebody that can help wrangle and aggregate data in a meaningful way and tell the right story with that data. Obviously, that data is hinged on what your tech stack looks like and how you are architecting that to enable your team. But the reality is, every investor and every venture capitalist, hopefully I'm not misspeaking here. If our investors are on, they would agree with this. They're looking at efficiency metrics. And you can't look at efficiency metrics for your sales and marketing and customer success without having the right data and the right tech stack, and therefore the right supporting cast behind the data and the tech stack to answer it. So when I talk to our investors and other ones, they're all wanting this role, mainly so that they can make sure that the way they see the business operating is coherent. They can put it all together and tell the right story of efficiency. But I don't know if that's the same vibe you're getting or not, Jerry, when you think about how VCs are suggesting it.
Yeah, what I've heard from them mostly is, I would agree, definitely the data-driven piece. That's huge. They of course, they typically like people who have like been there before and, brought a company 5x growth or whatever the number is. Definitely like strategic thinkers as well. Kind of like you said, I've seen interview questions from them directly where like it's very abstract question. And it's more like, how do you think about the answer to this question more than like, did you get the right answer? So, and it's tough to like, teach that and learn that skill, right? You just kind of got to innately be like that. Of course, a lot of them like MBAs and consulting background. Ideally they're going to want someone, top 10 MBA, couple years at McKinsey, but like, let's be honest, not all out there for RevOps. But yeah.
Not everybody works at McKinsey or Bain for a while before they jump into RevOps. So, myself included. I didn't work for either one of those logos. So
I don't really know many either, but I don't know.
I know a few, but not a ton. A lot of folks stay at both those companies, so retention's high for them. All right, this is a fun one, and I've been waiting to ask this the entire time. What are your RevOps recruiting pet peeves?
All right. Oh man. First of all, RevOps is a function and it's not just a single person. That's luckily it's been getting better, but like that is just the number one thing I can't say enough. I feel like every time I ever speak or write down anything, I'm writing that. A lot of companies kind of underestimate their issues when they're going to hire. They think one person's going to solve it. A lot of them underestimate how garbage their tech stack is. And they think like during the interview process, oh yeah, we have all these strategic initiatives for you to work on. And like the person gets in there, it's like, wow, your Salesforce hasn't been updated in 4 years. You have 15 people with admin rights. How am I supposed to run any reports on this? Your data anyway. I hear that all the time. Like I said, companies being way too picky, looking for 20 out of 20 things, or like very hot on like, oh, we want someone who comes from this company or went to this school. I mean, you and I, Brad, both know some great RevOps people who come from companies that no one's ever heard of, and they're not really like sexy industries. So there's that. Companies treating RevOps like a buzzword. It's just like, we need to hire RevOps because it's like the hot new thing. And then they don't like know really what they need and want. They don't know how to vet people. Looking for a unicorn, like looking for a MFing unicorn all the time, like someone who's a Salesforce architect and like a former McKinsey sales strategy person and like a data scientist from Google all in one, like, please. Oh, and then they want to pay that unicorn like dirt money. Yeah. Oh, another thing, last thing. Not the last thing, but one other thing. Companies like, oh yeah, we're gonna double and triple the size of our sales team. But no, RevOps gets no hires, just that one person. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of companies say too, like they'll lie, like, oh yeah, this person's going to build out a team, in their first few months. And then they don't after like 2 years. And then they're calling me on the phone. And I'm like, wow, I thought you'd have management experience by now. Like, no, there's no buy-in from the top. Yeah, that's, anyway, I know we're kind of close to time, but I could go for 2 more hours on this question alone. But anyway.
I know. I literally put it in the chat, and I think everybody else is just totally agreeing. RevOps is not a person; it's a function. And now, in the day and age that we're in, and again with what we do, you and I get to talk to RevOps folks all day, every day. It is not a one-person army anymore. This is a team effort. I can't tell you a single successful one of our customers that has a total one-person initiative of it. Now, a lot of these companies that we're working with, Brees, who has jumped on here a good bit, he's always on WizOps. He just jumped from a bigger company to a smaller company, and he is a one-person shop right now. Not for long. He's already got headcount approval. He's got people that he's wanting to bring in. And so it's not to say that you can't be a successful one-person shop, but you have to be forward-thinking and understanding that there are so many moving parts of this, and you can't actually think about doing this totally on your own, not with the complexity of technology, with the amount of data that we have to aggregate and manipulate out at these points. So you're spot on. We have to keep the team language. So I know we're a little over time. We're okay with going over for a few minutes, especially with some of the technical difficulties we had. So again, thanks for everybody sticking with us. But I'll ask one more question. And again, happy to take a couple more questions from the audience too. But this is something that we ask every single person that ever joins shOPS Talk. I can't wait to hear yours because it's a little bit of a different perspective talking with RevOps folks and recruiting them. But we always ask, and it's so pointed in this discussion specifically, if you were able to rewind the clock, fire up the DeLorean, go back in time at the very beginning of your career, and I think to make it specific for RevOps folks here that are early in their journey, what advice would you give them? Obviously, you have a perspective of it from hiring and watching people grow and excel, but a lot of people in our community, and you're in WizOps, you're helping people every day, are looking for that growth. What advice would you give them early in their career that they can go and grow with?
Get really good at math and analytical stuff, probably. Because I'd say that's like the main skill set when like companies are looking for like the really senior level. It's like the analytical stuff. Like they have 5 years worth of data, but like what are they doing with it, and how can we like make better decisions, become more prescriptive, predictive off of our data. So that would be the main advice I'd give to someone younger. Maybe math isn't the right thing to study, but get better with like data and analytics. Be my main thing probably.
It's not going anywhere. And that's the thing. It's the reality of where we are and how this is growing. One of the best this is one of the best things that Kyle Porter and I were talking about the other day, the CEO of SalesLoft. The level of complexity that's happening right now in both the science side of things, the math side of things, which I'll piggyback on your side, is up and to the right. We'll just leave it there. It is the technology stack that we're orchestrating is getting more and more complex all day, every day. The amount of data that we're getting more and more every day is just wild. Therefore, we have to think smarter. We have to be focusing on the analytical side, the critical thinking side. I love that advice. Make sure that you're never losing touch of that. Be willing to learn. Ask for help. Good God, we hear it every time that we have an episode like this. Most folks are always saying, jump into WizOps, jump into other communities, jump into RevGenius and the RevOps Co-op and Pavilion. There are so many of them out there that people are willing to help and help other people learn. But man, the skill set you have today, and you see it on resumes, you see it as you help all of your customers, the skill set you have today is not going to get you to tomorrow. So you have to keep leveling yourself up and growing. Am I right?
Yeah, that's so true. Just like the same skill set that gets a company from like 0 to 10 million is not the same that goes from like 100 to a billion. So same thing with your skill set.
Yep, you're spot on. And I know a couple of folks were asking, they either joined late or weren't able to join. We'll have this coming up in our YouTube channel. I just posted the link to that YouTube channel, so be sure to go check out previous episodes. Obviously, our good friend Manas and Keith and everybody else that we know and hang out with in New York when I get to come up there have been on before. But check out previous episodes. I know we're a few minutes over. JB, can't thank you enough for jumping on.
Awesome.
Hell of an episode. Again, apologies for a little bit of the technical snafu earlier, but hey, man, we roll the punches. We get things done, right?
Yeah, that's what you have to do in RevOps, right? Roll with the punches. So
roll with the punches. I love it. Well,
yeah,
exactly. Well, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate hanging with us. I know we're a few minutes over. Most importantly, JB, thank you so much for joining. We are going to take a little bit of a break over the next couple of weeks. We all know that we've got holidays coming up. We've got planning going on right now. We've got holiday parties for work that we got to go to. We'll have a couple of more events and posts that are coming out from the WizOps side of things. shOPS Talk will officially kick back up in a few weeks, but be on the lookout for everything else we have coming out. Thank you all for attending. JB, how do we get a hold of you if you have questions or if we're looking for that next RevOps Rockstar?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. It's pretty sure it's LinkedIn/Jerry RevOps, maybe. I think so. Jerry Bonura is my name. Also my email is jb@20pine.com. Pretty easy. So yeah, otherwise happy to chat anytime. Love the community, love the RevOps people. They're my favorite people in all of tech. So yeah.
I love it. And of course, Slack him. Getting WizOps. He's in there. Jump in.
Oh, yeah,
He's
I'm in there.
Always ready to help. So
gotta get better on those notifications. Yeah. I'm in there.
There you go.
Yeah.
All good. JB, I really appreciate it. Everyone, thank you again for joining. We'll be back soon with another episode. Have a great rest of your Thursday, rest of your week. Talk soon.
Cheers.
See everyone. Cheers.